I'm really glad to actually meet you after yet another milestone that CSA has achieved, the official launch of your primary section. So it gives me great pleasure to talk to you after that. And if I have to give a brief description about what this video is going to be about, it's about me trying to highlight um, education during a pandemic, not just for the the older children, the examination grades, but also how we are going to look at education for our juniors, for our kids in our primary section, because we can't forget them as well. So I'll just start by asking you, why did CSA decide to start a primary section, especially during the pandemic?
Right. The main reason for that, Kevin, I think I saw that question coming. And I think that's a question that would be on the minds of a lot of parents, especially during a pandemic. Why start? But it is precisely the pandemic that sort of pushed us also into going ahead. Because I think, unfortunately, if I may be blunt, I think a lot of us, especially in this country, have viewed sort of the pandemic and the fact that we are online in the education space. We've sort of viewed it as a barrier to education. Where we're not able to, we have connectivity issues, we can't connect with the children, we're not able to make that connect with them, so on and so forth. But in our case at CSA, we have actually used technology as an enabler, and our online classes. I mean, I'm not saying that this, this happened easily. It happened overnight. But last year, I may have mentioned this to you earlier, but last year when the pandemic kicked off, we had to actually spend several months, senior staff, as well as, we have a in-house team of student advisors, psychologists, counselors, therapists that we work with in-house. And we had to sort of sit down and put a system that would work digitally in place, so that whether the government shut down or the government stayed open, we would be able to deliver the quality that we usually promise our students and our parents. And we were able to do that. We were able to make that happen very successfully. We've now been operating that system for over a year, and we know it works. And the fact that, we are still locked down, we are still unable to open, and to be honest, I think the primary is the most affected, and those kids will be locked down. They'll be able to get back to normal schooling last of all. I felt really that we needed to do something for them, and we needed to address that issue and be able to deliver a good education to those kids. They'll be the last to be vaccinated, and therefore they'll be the last to get back to physical schooling. But they still need to have a good education. So this pandemic actually pushed us into that. The idea was to find a way of still delivering a really good primary education to them. Also, Kevin, and I think we have spoken on this before, what we are now calling the new normal is going to be the normal, as I keep saying. And, things, even when they open up, are never going to quite be the same. I think we are heading off. Anyway, we were in a digital era where we had to learn to think ahead of the machines and the AI. But now I think even education will happen very, very differently. There are several universities around the world that have gone online, and it is the same for education as well, and schooling. And even in terms of, say, for example, how exams are conducted, we have to expect long term to shift towards sort of online exams, online assessments. I think we're seeing a shift. And if this is what the 21st century is, then we really have to gear our kids up. There's no point. I mean, I know your next question will probably be around socialization, and I will get to that. But and I understand where you're coming from because I have the same concerns. But I think if this is the future, there's no point our trying to say, I mean, we have to work with that future and we have to gear our younger generation to that future and teach them to cope with the technology with confidence. And this is why we started the primary.
I think definitely it's absolutely worked out in CSA's favor that y'all didn't have a primary section before, and you were dealing with, older kids, more mature kids. So you were able to really, iron out all the issues you had with the online system. And now would you say that you're better geared? I feel like you're better geared to take on those younger kids and be able to deal with the problems that they have, the issues that you need to face while teaching the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, I think
So
you're
I
quite
think it,
right. I hadn't
yeah,
quite thought of it that way, but I think you've kind of
yeah,
nailed it in a way. I
yeah,
mean, I guess if we had a primary earlier, we would
yeah,
have probably also been stuck in that mindset that,
mindset.
we can't really do things online, whereas now we're actually looking for an active way of, putting in a good curriculum for them online. And of course, when things open up, then that will be something else to reflect on.
And that actually, we all saw it across Sri Lanka. The first thing that schools did was they shut their primary section down. The first section that they brought back on, even when it was online, it was the examination batch.
Because
That's
there's no
all,
choice.
that was the focus. There's no choice. They had to focus on it. And now we see it slowly filtering down towards primary and even, the little buttas running around. But I think it's the right move. I think those kids are lucky now, I would say, that they're starting to learn about this online system at such a young age. So I definitely think I agree that the shift is towards online learning, and I think the sooner your kids start to adapt to it, the better. And I think CSA is certainly on the right track. With on that note, like as you said before, my main question for today was actually on the social aspect of it, because I know the bigger kids, they can sort of deal with it in different ways. They have their mobile phones or whatever sorts of communication, and they know how to use the internet to stay in touch with their peers. But when you look at the primary section, how do you think CSA is going to go about creating that socialization aspect for our little ones?
So I think we need to break it up into two, Kevin, to be very honest about it. I think we have to look at online schooling during the pandemic, and we look at online schooling
After.
post,
Yeah,
once things have
yeah,
opened up, and it's a little bit safer to get kids out and about. So
yeah.
I think online, at least I mean, if we give the little ones the sort of the CSA treatment, so to speak, where we have our smaller classes, it's all very interactive, we have our flipped learning. I think if we can open our kids up to that as well, we do have extracurricular happening across the board
Exactly.
anyway, online as well. We can run art programs online. There's so much that we can actually do, and we have found ways of doing very successfully online. So while we are in this situation, as I said, there's less socialization physically, but the fact that we are more interactive, we do have that opportunity to interact, for the kids to ask questions, to connect with the kids. We are able to do that very successfully, and I think therefore they will get it that way. We also have, for example, our buddy programs, and those are all things that we could do. And again, they're learning the technology at a younger age, but there are ways of connecting, even during this time. And of course, after, when things become safer, then we then have the opportunity to actually then look at organizing, say, in a phased way until we, everything is back to normal. But we are able to then maybe get them in for a day, have give them that opportunity to meet physically, connect physically, get their hands dirty, move, mix, play with clay and what have you, and make friends and share cookies, and you can do that staggered, and as things become safer and safer, and we get back to a more a more normal way of living, where it's these masks and social distance is not such an issue, then we stagger it and we get back to that. But it is so we have to build that in.
Yeah, I guess like you said, in terms of the new normal, it's not just online learning, but the whole socialization aspect of it as well. And I think it certainly came in CSA's favor that unlike the other schools that opened up during the little phases of when they released the lockdown, CSA has been online pretty much since the first lockdown. So I think you really were able to manage the whole socialization aspect, experiment with various things, and finally narrow it down to things that work. So I think right now CSA is well equipped to take this to the younger generation as well. So it's certainly
I
for
think
me
as you say, I mean, the fact that we have been doing lower secondary upwards. I mean, we launched our primary on Children's Day this year, but the fact that we have been doing lower secondary upwards all the way through to A levels, taking kids in for the exam candidates, managing all their exams online, all of that as well. I mean, we've got several USPs, if you like, that we have several guarantees that we are able as a school to offer our parents, like, the smaller classrooms, and that personalized attention, that whole sort of family culture, and that sort of nurturing environment. We are then able to literally transfer those same USPs and those same, I think, what is the word, qualities that make CSA what it is and makes it CSA special. We are able to transfer that to the lower grades as well, to primary. Because as you say, we had this opportunity to learn, and then now we get to transfer it down.
I think that aspect of personalization for the little ones is probably going to be the biggest advantage at CSA, because like you said, even for the bigger kids, we had smaller classrooms. So that, especially like when you introduce these little ones to an online forum, I can imagine how difficult it can be right off the bat. It would certainly be overwhelming for a little one to get on in front of a screen and experience this whole system. But having a more personalized approach would definitely help them ease into the whole aspect of online learning, and that will be a great advantage.
Absolutely, Kevin. But also, if you think about it, with each generation, they are becoming more tech savvy.
More tech savvy.
We don't have to teach them. They already know at the age of 3. I mean, if you expose, and this is what's important, we need to expose them in the right way. If we expose them correctly, we control the environment. So, they learn to use, whether we like it or not, the technology is here to stay. So what we need to do is give them the tools to use it and get the best out of it. Right. So once we have that control environment, I mean, you can have, I've had kids, 3-year-olds doing, using PowerPoint and, creating, doing drawings and creating, emojis on PowerPoint. I mean, which you can do. And I mean, just think about it. They are then learning skills. they're learning, they're picking it up at such a young age, and they can. I mean, those little minds are ready to absorb, but we just need to make sure that they're absorbing in the right way. It's just about
Right.
giving them that right guidance. So again, that is where the personalized attention comes in, because we are able to give them that. It's not a case of a teacher just saying, okay, you all go and press this button and that button, but it's about nurturing them, and encouraging them to explore, but always being there, to make sure that they don't, that safety net is there, building in that safety net.
Agreed. Definitely. I think it's better to get them used to all the technology out there sooner rather than later, because anyway, once they grow up and once we are looking at their career, it's certainly all going to be very technology driven. So I certainly think that they are in a good space, and it's a huge advantage for those kids. And I'm really glad that CSA decided to open it out to primary kids at this point. I know we touched on several important topics there. I have one more topic, and in the interest of time, I'll just keep it short. I just have one more question. I just wanted to make it clarify for our audience. Uh, we know that CSA offers the Cambridge syllabus for grade 6 and above for the examination grades. How is it going to be the same syllabus for our primary section as well, or how is it going to work with the little ones?
Yeah, so we are a fully Cambridge school. So we will be gearing them for that. Cambridge does have a curriculum for the primary section. So there will be, certainly we will be going by that curriculum, but that actually kicks in at grade 3. Grades 3, 4, 5 are the ones that's when the primary curriculum comes in. After that, you have the Cambridge checkpoint, and then of course you go on to your IGCSEs and so on and so forth. So the foundation KG grade 1, grade 2 will of course be building that foundation so that they can step into Cambridge primary when they come into grade 3, but it won't, the way as we do things at CSA, it won't be just that we follow a curriculum, but right through it's about building, getting the best of the Cambridge curriculum, but also giving them those other life skills and soft skills, and gearing them as they grow slowly, so that by the time they come up to grade 9, come up to high school, they're really ready, they're exam ready, and they're ready to sort of take their next steps a few years down from there. So that's, it's about making sure that happens. I mean, if you remember, Kevin, when we first started back in 2015, we started with only the high school. We started with grade 9. And then we went down to, so it was only upper secondary that we offered. And then we went down to grade 6 as well, and, became like a fully fledged secondary school offering lower and upper secondary. Now, the reason for that as well was that we found that when kids were coming in at grade 9, that they weren't up to the mark. It didn't matter, what the background was, but they weren't quite up to the mark for grade 9. They weren't at the right starting point. So one reason why we went down was to make sure then that we built that right foundation, so that when they crossed over from grade 8 to grade 9, they were really ready. And we saw that. I mean, we have, we've seen that time and time again, because we have kids that go through our system and then step into grade 9. And we do take a few kids each year who come in directly to grade 9. And we see that difference in the kids. So the same way that we started grade 6, 7, 8 to give them that right foundation for grade 9, this will be the focus of the primary section, that they come in. Now, when they come in at grade 6, they're not ready for grade 6. Yeah. And we have to lower it and lower the standard and bring them up. Whereas what we are really hoping for, and actually this is, I have to say, we have been asked this numerous times ever since we started, why we're not coming up, going down to the lower grades. So, this now we're finally doing that and building up so that we have that foundation once and for all in place. So I'm really thrilled that we are now at a stage where we can actually offer the CSA program to all kids from the start.
I'm really excited to see, as you said as well, how this extension of the foundation to the little ones is going to help them move on to the higher grades and excel in their examinations. Because